unfathomable eons before Folkyr's creation, they existed, the Nameless Ones, entities of such profound wrongness that reality itself recoils at their presence. But unlike the static nightmares of mortal imagination, these eldritch horrors are not fixed in form or nature. They are the very embodiment of fear itself, ever-changing, ever-evolving, molded by the terrors of all sentient beings. When the primal gods breathed life into Folkyr, they unknowingly gave the Nameless Ones a new purpose. As consciousness blossomed across the world, so too did fear, and with it, the Nameless Ones grew in power and complexity. They became a dark mirror to creation, reflecting and magnifying the deepest dreads of every living mind. In the early days, when primitive creatures roamed Folkyr, the Nameless Ones were simple in their horror, mindless, all-consuming maws and infinitely grasping tendrils. But as life evolved, so did they. With each new species that gained sentience, with each civilization that rose to ponder its own mortality, the Nameless Ones absorbed and twisted these new fears into ever more horrifying forms. From the primal dread of darkness shared by all creatures came the Void Walkers, beings of such perfect blackness that they devour light itself. The universal fear of being hunted birthed the thousand-eyed stalker, its myriad gazes piercing through every shadow, every hiding place, leaving no sanctuary from its relentless pursuit. As the races of Folkyr developed complex societies, their fears grew more nuanced, and so did the horrors that fed upon them. The human fear of loss of identity in their growing cities gave rise to the Faceless Ones, shape-shifting monstrosities that could wear the skin of loved ones. Orcish dread of weakness amidst their warrior culture spawned the Strength Thief, a being that could drain the vitality from the mightiest champion with but a touch. The vampires of Umbervale, with their fear of true death, unwittingly created the most terrifying Nameless One yet, the Final Devourer, an entity that could erase a being not just from life, but from history and memory itself. Even the dragons, in their secret fear of cosmic insignificance, gave birth to the World Swallower, a horror so vast it could consume entire realities. But the true insidiousness of the Nameless Ones lies in their adaptability. As the peoples of Folkyr learned to confront their fears, the horrors evolved to exploit new terrors. When warriors steeled themselves against physical threats, the Nameless Ones became psychic predators, attacking the mind directly. When societies built great walls to keep out the darkness, the horrors learned to infiltrate dreams and whisper madness into sleeping minds. This endless cycle of fear and adaptation has made the Nameless Ones nearly impossible to combat. For every terror overcome, a new, more insidious dread takes its place. The very act of fighting against them shapes them, the fear of failure giving them new weapons to wield against the defenders of Folkyr. Scholars who dare to study the Nameless Ones often go mad, realizing too late that their research gives form to new horrors born from their own academic fears, the terror of being wrong, of wasted years, of knowledge man was not meant to know. These Nameless Ones manifest as living paradoxes, their very existence invalidating universal constants and driving rational minds to break under the weight of impossible truths. The primal gods, in their desperate battle to save Folkyr, made a terrible miscalculation. Their cosmic barrier, meant to contain the Nameless Ones, instead created a pressure cooker of terror. Trapped between dimensions, the horrors fed upon each other, combining and evolving at an accelerated rate. Now, as the barrier weakens, it is not individual Nameless Ones that claw at the edges of reality, but a vast, ever-shifting amalgamation of all fears that have ever been and ever will be. In isolated pockets across Folkyr, where the veil grows thin, locals report that the nature of the horrors they face changes with each generation. A village that once battled against tentacled abominations now finds itself haunted by living shadows that steal children's laughter. A fortress that withstood sieges from giants made of cancerous flesh now crumbles under the weight of invisible doubts given form. Cults dedicated to the Nameless Ones have become breeding grounds for new horrors. Their rituals of sacrifice and self-mutilation give shape to the fears of both cultist and victim alike, creating personalized nightmares that hunt those who escape. Some cults, in their madness, deliberately expose themselves to new terrors, believing that by evolving the Nameless Ones, they can shape the coming apocalypse in their favor. As the prophesied time of the Nameless Ones' return draws near, a chilling realization spreads across Folkyr. The greatest weapon of these horrors is not their alien might or cosmic power, but the fears that live within the hearts of every sentient being. Each nightmare, each moment of panic, each lingering dread feeds and shapes the very entities that seek to unmake reality. In this darkest of hours, the people of Folkyr face a terrifying paradox. To fight is to give the Nameless Ones new forms born of the fear of failure. To surrender is to let primal terror reshape the world. As the barrier weakens and sanity frays, one question echoes across Folkyr: in a world where fear itself is the enemy, what hope can there be?